On January 12, 1960, United Press International announced that the odds were 4-1 against our Continental League in succeeding to become a major league. Let's revisit the history of past baseball wars and their outcomes in the context of what we were aiming to accomplish with our new league. It had been almost 60 years when Ban Johnson, also known as the Czar of Baseball, and his American League forces completed a successful fight for recognition from the established National League. Just 4 years before then, at a reorganization meeting held in 1894, Ban was elected as president of the Western League. Back then, Ban had criticized the National League for its rowdy atmosphere, which was driving away families and women from spectating, so Ban set about to making baseball more friendly for both groups. Contrary to the practice of the time, Ban gave his umpires unqualified support and had little tolerance for players or managers who failed to show them due respect. He also fined and suspended players who used foul language on the field. Soon, his Western League was recognized not only as the strongest of the minor leagues, but also as the most effectively managed league in baseball. With his friend Charles Cominsky, who had purchased the Sioux City franchise and moved it to St. Paul in 1894, Ban initiated an ambitious plan of expansion. It wasn't until the 1899 season when Ban would get his big chance. That was when the National League dropped its Baltimore, Cleveland, Louisville, and Washington, D.C. franchises. Ban then moved the Grand Rapids franchise to Cleveland, where they would eventually become the Indians, and he had Cominsky move his team to Chicago, where they would become the White Sox. For the 1900 season, the Western League was renamed as the American League, although it remained a minor league. That season was an unequivocal success. The final step came on January 28, 1901, when Ban declared his minor league would operate as a major league and history was made. But 4 other groups that attempted to repeat Ban's success and form new leagues failed to survive costly baseball wars which ranged from 1 to 9 years in duration. These were the American Association, the Union Association, the Players' Brotherhood, and finally the Federal League. Fast forward 60 years later to where we were at when on January 12, 1960, Dick Peebles, the executive sports editor for the Houston Chronicle, wrote that little by little, the Mahatma, our fearless leader Branch Rickey, was making converts. Dick noted that Branch was soon due to return to Houston for another revival meeting in an attempt to get county and city officials to hit the sawdust trail. Dick noted that to get Charlie Johnson, the executive sports editor for the Minneapolis Star and Tribune, to admit that the die was cast and that bigger population areas of the continent must go with the new Continental League if they were ever to get Major League Baseball was a major victory for the Continentals, since Johnson had firmly believed up until then that our league was not the answer, but that expansion was. Dick wrote that there were still those in Houston that believed our Continental League would never succeed, and that if the county built a stadium with revenue bonds on the premise that our league would succeed, it would be left with a white elephant in a few years. Dick closed his column by saying that it stood to reason if Houston did not get in the act, then, when the getting was good, it would be a long time before it would get another chance.